Alright, today we have a really cool feature to talk about that was just recently released by Crystaltimes Horology and Seikomods. They are also the sponsors of this video, so thank you to them for supporting the channel and allowing me to make content like this for you guys. So recently they've created a way for us to see how a custom build would look like without having to physically build it first. I don't know about you guys, but I've been asking for something like this for a few years now. It's all done digitally through a very user-friendly interface, of which I'll go into more detail later on. With that said, let's get on the bench and start building. Okay, I'll be working on the NH35 today, and to start, I'm checking its operation like its natural day change, quickset, and timekeeping. All my build videos start off this way because this is actually what I do for every single watch I work on. Crazy, right? I regulated this movement off camera to save on time, and it's running pretty well now. After taking it off the time grapher, I give the functions another quick check and clean its surface before proceeding on to the dial. Here is a field style or aviation style face in blue sunburst, and what's cool is that this dial is actually a sandwich construction, so the loom is inset. It's put into place and cleaned up before setting the time to midnight, so that the movement time actually corresponds with the hands to be installed. Although not necessary, I still make an effort in carefully setting the movement to exactly 12 AM. Here are the sword style hands I'll be using for this build. I think it pairs well with the dial's aesthetic. The hour hand is carefully aligned into place with my gold-plated brass tweezers, then transferred over to my version press to be set. Now the hour hand's operation is checked, along with its spacing, and finally cleaned up. Next is the minute hand, which is also carefully aligned into place, set with my version hand press, tested alongside the hour hand for alignment, checked for proper spacing, then cleaned up in preparation for the second hand. Once all three hands are good to go, I stop the hacking and give a final check just in case something was overlooked. Of course, this includes some additional cleaning. Now that the internals are all done, we can proceed on to the case, which is the CT716 SKX2 Panerai conversion case. I think this part makes a great candidate for any field, aviation, or dress designs. The crystal gasket and inner surfaces are cleaned up, and the brush chaptering is also cleaned up before installing it into the case. For the crystal, I decided to use the top hat style with clear AR coating on the underside. It's carefully placed as evenly as possible by hand, then finalized on my version press. Here I ensure the crystal was set perfectly even and clean its underside for any dust. Now the case back is temporarily installed for me to work on the bezel mechanism. The click spring is set into place, the bezel gasket is lubricated and installed, and finally a coinage bezel will be pressed into place with my Horotech press. Once clicked in, the action is thoroughly checked, and here if I'm not satisfied with the rotation for any reason, I'll disassemble the entire bezel work and make some fine adjustments until the action is up to my standards. Next, I work on the crown and stem, and to stay true to the field or aviation style aesthetic, I chose a coin-edged big crown. Not only does it look pretty cool, but it's much easier to handle and screw in and out due to its size. The stem is cut to size, accounted for any burrs, cleaned up, and locked into the crown. Since this build is also 200 meters water resistant, I lubricate the inner crown gaskets as well. The entire assembly is married into the watch, and I check its full operation like time setting, hand winding, and how far it screws in and out. We're almost done by now. The movement is given a clean, the lubricated gasket is set, and the sapphire display back is screwed into place by hand, then finalized on my Bergen case back tool. And just a side note, I'm constantly examining the watch through a loupe and cleaning in between steps despite not being shown here. There's not just one step of cleaning, it's a constant process from start to finish. A rather time-consuming and agonizing process, if I may add. Anyways, here's the last part, which is a blue dual-time loom ceramic bezel insert. That's a mouthful. It's aligned and set into place, which completes the build, of which I give a final check for every single part afterwards. The watch is looking pretty sweet, so let's get off the bench and head back to the studio. Alright, so here is the completed build made entirely from parts from Crystaltimes Horology and Seikomods. And a quick plug, if you're interested in this custom watch or any custom piece that I've made in my other videos like my Comet, Blood Moon, Elemental, and Two-Tone Stealth, do shoot me an email as I offer full custom builds like these and or customization services for existing watches like the SKX007, SRP Turtle, Seiko 5 SRPD series, and so on. As I've said, this is an aviation field watch aesthetic utilizing the SKX to Panerai conversion case. We have a blue sunburst dial with sandwich construction, so there's a base layer of loom underneath the top surface. For ease of legibility, this watch has sword style hands, which also stays true to the whole military vibe. The insert is blue ceramic with loom filled numerals, and its dual time layout allows you to effectively track a second time zone. Lastly, the crystal is sapphire with clear AR coating on the underside, and I went for the top hat style to add a hint of vintage to the overall aesthetic. Since most of you guys prefer to see my builds with some type of strap, I made a shell Cordovan single pass-through leather strap specifically for this piece, and I think it matches perfectly. Official strap release coming soon. Normally, I like to utilize OEM Seiko dials in all my builds, but I understand that they aren't the easiest to come by for everyone. That's why I wanted to show that you can source other dials and all of the necessary parts for a custom build through a single supplier. Now let's talk about this configurator that Crystaltimes Horology and Seikomods developed. For years, the only way to visualize the build without physically making it was either through 1 Photoshop or 2 good imagination. After building close to 1,000 watches at this point, maybe more, it's become a lot easier for me to mentally visualize how a watch will look put together than someone who's just getting into this. Many of my clients also ask for renderings because they're not sure if the parts they picked out will look good put together. Of course, I always offer recommendations based on my experience in building and designing all sorts of watches, but unfortunately, it's just impossible for me to Photoshop every single request. But now, anyone can digitally configure a build thanks to this new program and eliminate any uneasiness or uncertainties when it comes to choosing parts. The configurator is really easy to use because it has all the parts clearly listed like the case, bezel, crown, dial, hands, insert, and after making a selection, you can see all of the options available within a category. After clicking on a new part, you'll see the watch update its design in real time, and you can also bring up any relevant information regarding it. So let's say you're unsure whether you want a coin edge bezel or a big grip bezel for your build. Previously, you would have to use Photoshop to create a rendering, or again, your imagination, to help make a decision. But now, it's as easy as clicking a few things to generate visual renderings within a matter of seconds. Another convenient feature is that as you're configuring your watch, you can press add to cart after each selection, so at the end, your checkout button will contain everything you've chosen up to that point. Basically, there's no need to go back and forth, which saves a lot of time. Anyways, I'll have links down below to the configurator for you guys to check out. Playing around with it yourself is much easier than me explaining how it works because it is quite intuitive. I was told that it's constantly being worked on, so new features will be added in the future, which is exciting. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and huge thank you to Crystaltimes Horology and Seikomods for sponsoring this mod video. Build content is very time consuming and difficult to produce, but thanks to their support, I'm able to make these videos for you guys to enjoy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram at loom_shot, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya. Ooh, cinematic.